Hi everybody, I'm Greg Fishel. Welcome to bonus weather video number 3 for this week. And I thought since we at least had a risk of severe weather today, that it might be a good time to sort of do a crash course because in terms of severe weather outlooks, because they can be confusing. Sometimes the probabilities don't seem to make a lot of sense. And so we're going to try to make some sense out of all that today. So let me put myself down here in the corner and let's get started. So for the day 1 severe weather outlook, which usually comes out about 1 or 2 in the morning, so like when you get up in the morning, then you're seeing the latest outlook. So here are the probabilities for each type of severe weather: tornadoes, straight line wind damage, and hail, and how they relate to the terms marginal, slight, enhanced, moderate, or high, okay? And as you can see, the colors don't mean the same thing for different types of severe weather. Like for instance, and by the way, I'm going to go through these different thresholds here. The probabilities for severe weather are for a tornado within 25 miles, wind gusts of 58 miles per hour or higher within 25 miles, hail 1 inch or larger in diameter within 25 miles of a point, and then significant severe is defined as a 10% or greater probability of an EF2 or stronger tornado, that's on the scale of EF0 to EF5, wind gusts of 75 miles per hour or greater, which is hurricane force, or hail 2 inches or greater in diameter. So for instance, if you're in a high risk for tornadoes, then that's going to be a probability of 30% or higher of a tornado being within 25 miles of a point. And if it's just 30% with no significant severe, in other words, they don't think the chance of an EF2 tornado is all that great, then it would just be a moderate risk. But as soon as you introduce the possibility of an EF2 or greater tornado, then it becomes a high risk, okay? Now, over on the wind category, you don't get to high risk until it's a 60% chance of damaging winds and also a 10% or greater probability of 75 mile an hour winds, okay? And then on hail, there is no such thing as a high risk for hail. It simply goes marginal, slight, enhanced, and moderate, okay? So this is available if you do a Google search for SPC and you look at their convective outlook. There's a little link you can click on that gives you this conversion table for what the words or how the words relate to the probabilities. So, if you're into that type of thing, you might want to print that out and put it on the fridge or something like that. All right, so here's the day 2 severe weather outlook, and it has its own combination of colors and probabilities to go with it. And it is important to remember that with all these probabilities, they relate to, or they pertain to, the chance of something occurring within 25 miles of a given location. It's not a probability of it occurring over a point. It's within 25 miles of a point, okay? Which means that the probability of it happening over a specific point is even less than that. Finally, for the day 3 severe weather outlook, all 3 types of severe weather are combined into one probability. And so you can see the conversions there. 5% is marginal, 15% is slight, 15% with significant severe is also considered slight. And then 30% with significant, and 45% are all enhanced, and 45% with significant is moderate. And then finally, there is a day 4 to day 8 outlook, okay? And there are 3 classifications for that. You'll either see the text that says probability too low, or there'll be a 15% probability or a 30% probability. My experience has been that when you get out that far, most times it's going to say probability too low. And if you see a 15 or a 30% show up, then that's definitely something that has gotten their attention. Now, these probabilities probably don't mean a whole lot unless you compare them to the climatological probabilities at a given location for a certain time of year, okay? So this is the map of the current average probabilities for any type of severe weather for right around May 27th. I think they break this down week by week, so we are closer to the 27th than any other date right now. And if you look at that closely, the triangle area is in about a 3 to 4%. So if you look at an average probability over 30 years, about this time of year, there's a 3 to 4% chance of there being severe weather on a given day, okay, within 25 miles of a point. So what you have to do then is take the actual probabilities that are issued by the Storm Prediction Center on a given day and compare it to the climatological probability. Like, for instance, if it's 30% and the climatological probability is 3, then that's 10 times the normal chance that you would have for severe weather. And that puts it in a little bit clearer perspective. Now, here are the current average probabilities for tornadoes, and for this, we're only at 0.2%, okay? So if we had a 10% chance of tornadoes, then that would be, I'm trying to do this in my head here, that would be 50 times the climatological probability. So again, 10% doesn't sound impressive, but if you say it's 50 times the average probability for that date in this part of the country, then that makes your ears perk up a little bit more. Current average probabilities for significant tornadoes, EF2 or higher, is only 0.05%. Now we moved on to wind. This is wind of 58 miles per hour or higher. That climatological probability is about 2% this time of year, and for significant wind, just 0.1%. And then finally, for 1-inch hail, the probability is about 2%, and for 2-inch diameter hail, it is very small at 0.1%, okay? And again, if you do a Google search for SPC, severe weather climatology, I think is how it comes up, then you can look at these same maps. And again, I think it makes you understand the probabilities or take them more seriously if you compare it to the long-term average probability for a given location on a certain time or for a certain time of the year. I have always said, even if a tornado warning is issued for your particular area, that the chance of it coming right over your house and completely destroying it are very, very small, okay? However, there are such things as low probability, high impact events where you may not think the chance of it happening is all that great, but if it does and you have done nothing to prepare for it, then you may not get another chance, okay, which is obviously what we don't want. And so my advice has always been, go to your safe spot, you know, your basement, interior closet, bathroom, whatever. And if nothing happens, and in most cases nothing will, at least nothing that's going to kill you, then don't be mad. I wasted 20 minutes of my life in my basement. Big deal, okay? You made sure that you gave yourself the best chance of coming out of a potentially serious situation okay. And if by chance it does go directly over your house, you have given yourself the best chance to survive, okay? Because you don't want to get in one of those situations where you make a mistake one time and that's the only chance you get, okay? So that's never a good scenario. All right, well, I hope that makes a little bit of sense in terms of what these probabilities actually mean and comparing them to the long-term average probabilities at a given point at a certain time of year. All right, that's it for now. That's bonus weather video number 3 for this week. The next one will be coming up on Monday, and I will be on the road for a good part of next week. I'll be up in the Raleigh area. For those of you that remember Derek Wittenberg, that there's still controversy as to whether or not he was actually taking the shot to win the game against Houston in '83 or whether or not it was a shot that fell short and Lorenzo Charles picked it up or grabbed it out of the air and dunked it. The bottom line is Derek has an incredible organization which helps people afford to go to college that otherwise wouldn't be able to. And he has a charity golf tournament every year, and he's always been gracious enough to invite me to play. And so I'll be doing that on Monday, and then I have some medical stuff I got to take care of on Wednesday. So it'll be, a little challenging to get everything out next week, but we'll get it done. We'll get it done somehow, some way. All right, that's it for now, folks. You all have a wonderful Friday evening, and even better weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. See you later.